What's up? It's Billy Briz at Getting Bills on Twitter, joined by my main man, DFS by the numbers, aka Brady. How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Just really tired with UFC and NFL. It's a lot, but yeah, ready for this show. Ready to get into week 2 here.
Yeah, we're going to keep this one pretty short, man. I feel like this week is pretty straightforward. Not really too much to this week. Brady, how are you going about your cash game constructions this week?
Yep. So I made I messed around earlier in the week and did like a little cash lineup there. And then I just did one recently, and this is probably the one I'm going to stick with. So it's different from last week. Last week, there was a ton of value at wide receiver. And it looks like this week, there is a ton of value that I like at running back. So for me, I'm going to be going down, paying for these cheap running backs. I'm sure we'll talk about some. And then going up and paying for the wide receivers. I like the Lambs, the Coopers, the Allens, guys like that. For me, also, in terms of quarterback, it's between Dak or Herbert. Of course, going against each other in the same game, that 55-point game total. Flip a coin. I think I'm on Dak as of now, but I might go to Herbert later in terms of for the slate starts. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm feeling pretty good about my cash line.
Yeah, man. Cash games, I feel like there's enough ways to get different at the running back position. There's going to be chalk like guys like Najee Harris, but there's ways to get different in other spots. I feel like paying up at the running back position will be contrarian this week with so many good wide receivers on the slate. But let's hop right into it. You talked about it. Dallas versus the LA Chargers. That is the chalkiest game of the slate this week. A bunch of different ways to go about it. Guys that are going to be in my player pool on the Cowboy side is going to be Prescott, Elliott, Cooper, Lamb, and Cedric Wilson at $3,100. And then on the Charger side, Herbert, Eckler, Allen, Mike Williams, and Jared Cook. How are you going about ways to stack this one, Brady? There's a bunch of different ways to go about it. How's the one that's going to get you all the monies in the world?
There's just so many different ways to play this game. I'm going to be very heavily exposed to it, as are a lot of people. I think you can go both sides. On the Dallas side, I like it a lot. Dak Prescott, you can stack him up with CeeDee Lamb, who is 6,400, and then also Cedric Wilson, who is 3,100, a very cheap guy that I like this week, filling in for Michael Gallup, who's going to be out a few weeks. So I like the Dak side. I like the Dallas side. On the flip side, I do like the Charger side as well. You have Herbert. I like Allen a ton as well. Mike Williams, to me, seems a little bit overpriced, but on the Charger side, I'm looking at Herbert. I'm looking at Keenan Allen. And then I'm looking at a very cheap tight end in Jared Cook as well, who had like 8 targets last week, scored 10.6 DraftKings points. But yeah, it's in my lineups. I'm just going to be so heavily exposed to this game in general. And in terms of the running backs, I think are very interesting as well. Like I have interest in pretty much every single player on this game. Austin Eckler is somebody that interests me, 7,300. Zeke Elliott, 6,200 interests me as well. So all in all, I can see myself, if this game busts, I'm going to have a really bad week. But if this game does what it's supposed to, I think it's going to be a very good week because I'm going to be all over this game.
I definitely will agree with you 1,000%. One price tag that kind of stood out to me was Mike Williams. He felt a little bit overpriced, around $6,100 on DraftKings. But if you guys are FanDuel grinders out there in the world, $5,600 is a pretty cheap price tag for Mike Williams, about $5,000 less than he is on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. That's one price tag that kind of stood out to me. And I would say Justin Herbert kind of stands out to me a little bit more on FanDuel than he does on DraftKings. $7,600 is a little bit more of a price difference between him and Dak on DraftKings. So those are the couple prices that stood out to me. To play or not to play Ezekiel Elliott, will you be going down the Ezekiel Elliott route in your lineups with Herbert?
Yeah, the problem is for cash, I'm probably leaning towards no, but for tournaments, I'm definitely going to have some Zeke. I just think it's a price tag that is, pretty disrespectful, to be honest. He did do horrible last week, as did Harris. But you take a look at who they played, right? They played the Buccaneers, who have one of, if not the best, run defense in the NFL. So you got to think, were the Cowboys coming in there with a game plan of, hey, let's run the ball 20 times against the Buccaneers defense? Or are they coming in there with a game plan of, hey, let's throw the ball 58 times against the Buccaneers passing defense? So I think it's an interesting spot where Zeke can definitely get back on track. And we talked about the ownership. Dak's going to be very high owned. These wide receivers on Dallas are going to be very high owned. I think it would be interesting to play a Zeke that, I looked earlier in the week. I think he was coming around 4% ownership on DraftKings. Not sure where it's at now, but that's really low. So if Zeke is still that low, my interest only goes up. I think it's a good bounce back spot for him here.
Yeah, I definitely will agree with you. I feel like everybody will go with Dak and CD and then try to run it back with Eckler. There's going to be you're going to try to have to find ways to get different. One way to maybe be able to differentiate your teams a little bit is going to this Tennessee and Seattle Seahawks game. That is one of my favorite stacks of the weekend. A lot of my GPP and cash games will definitely come from the Seattle offense. I feel like Seattle is in a great spot against the Tennessee Titans. Would you be more interested in targeting the Tennessee pass catchers, or would you be targeting Derrick Henry in this spot?
To be honest, like neither for me. I'm kind of more interested on the Seattle side. I really like Russell Wilson. I really like Metcalf and Lockett. I was actually really high on Metcalf last week. We talked about the injuries to Xavier Rhodes last week, and it was upsetting that Lockett was the one that went off with 29 DraftKings points, but Metcalf still had a touchdown. I'm going right back to it here. I like the Russell Wilson stacks with Metcalf and Lockett. I think you get a single or double there. Run back options, you mentioned some, solid options. You have Brown over there, 6,900, very cheap. Julio Jones, who did not look great last week, 5.9 DraftKings points, 6,300. But if anything for this game, I do like that Seattle side more. You touched on Derrick Henry. Again, for me, I think he's in a decent spot. I'm not ever really the biggest Derrick Henry guy. Of course, he always has that boom potential, but I just don't like the lack of pass catching upside. And if they do fall behind like they did last week, he's not going to really get a lot done. I'd rather go down and get some of the stud running backs that I like this week. But yeah, I'm more on the Seattle side in this game.
I definitely will agree with you. One thing I'm going to try to do in my cash games on both websites is go out of my way to play DK Metcalf this week. I think he absolutely should eat against this Tennessee Titans defense. And then for GPPs, I think this sets up good for a mini stack because, the Dallas Cowboys and Charger receivers are going to be so chalky. But I think there should be some love for A.J. Brown in this spot against the Seattle Seahawks. I feel like that's a great run back option. Is Julio dust or is he not dust? I don't know, but I'm going to have to wait and see for this week. I'm not going to be playing as much Julio as I usually would if it was 2018 or something like that. I'm going to have to wait on the Julio shares this week. I really like this game for mini stacks, and Chris Carson is one of my favorite GPP running backs of the board this weekend. I feel like he should absolutely smash in this spot. So maybe you go with some chalkier guys in the first stack and then try to differentiate your teams with this stack, but maybe that stack might be chalky as well. But one of the highest game totals of the week is going to be this Minnesota Vikings versus Arizona Cardinals game. Definitely a game that I think that might go under the radar. Clear stackable concentrated options for both teams. On the Viking side, I'm really liking Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Jefferson, and Tyler Conklin. And then on the Cardinal side, I'm liking Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, and Rondell Moore. I feel like in the 4 o'clock games, you're going to have to differentiate yourself. That's where a lot of the ownership is coming from this week. Are you looking at this Minnesota Vikings and Cardinals game, or is this one that didn't really reach your board for you?
I might attack it a little bit, maybe just one-offs for me. Obviously, any given week, you can stack up Murray and Hopkins. I like the run-back options you have with Jefferson and Thielen. Somebody that did interest me in terms of a value play is going to be KJ Osborne, and he had a very good week one. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to continue this, but he looked really good. He had 9 targets, which is crazy. 7 receptions, 14.6 DraftKings points, 76 yards. So in terms of value, I'm looking at Osborne, and I like Murray a lot this week. How can you not? I pretty much like him any week, but there's just so many guys I like below him, like Dak Prescott, like Herbert, like Tom Brady, that are a lot cheaper than him. So for me, it's just really hard to get there, but it's hard. You can't deny that he's a good play, right? So for me, I just like other players this week that are cheaper, but yeah, he's always in play for me.
Yeah, I definitely will agree with you. Earlier in the week, it didn't really reach my radar, but just off of ownership alone, if you get Dalvin Cook at a pretty cheap ownership and a bounce back spot, I don't think the Arizona Cardinals defense, they made Chandler Jones look like if he was Ndamukong Suh, straight prime time at Ndamukong Suh from like a decade ago. I don't know what was up with the Tennessee Titans, but that might speak to the Tennessee Titans. But before we continue on with this video, quick commercial ad real quick. Shouts to the sponsors, Manscaped and Southtown 101. I'm back. Stacks and Facts Week 2 video here with DFS by the number. Shouts to the chat. We got Boston Nick MMA saying, at Brady, you get that Grizzly Adams beer going, brother?
I'm going to keep it going. I decided I like the look, and I'm just going to see how much I can grow it out.
Shouts to Preston. He said, take McCaffrey. Saints ravaged by injuries. Yeah, that's one of the GPP looks that I'm going to go to. I know the Carolina Panthers. I almost called them Cardinals for a second. The Carolina Panthers play on Monday Night Football next week, so that's something to keep your mind on. We won't have CMC on the main slate next week, so get him now this week before he's gone. Shouts to Maxwell Smart. Happy birthday to you, brother. And also happy birthday to a special man out there that does the baseball around the things in Pub Sports Radio, Connor Mack Picks. Shouts to Connor Mack Picks. Happy birthday to you, brother.
Happy birthday.
Tony Cobbs says, hey guys, shouts to Preston last night, said had McLaurin 6+ catches, 75 yards, a touchdown, and a Washington football team to win plus 600 last night. Sounds easier the day after, Preston. I know your ass was sweating during that game though. And shout outs to Pocket QB Lamar Jackson. What a great name. He said, great look. But Brady, what is a under the radar stack that you're going to look at this weekend? I know the 4 o'clock games are very popular. Is there any 4 o'clock games that you think are going under the radar or 1 o'clock?
I mean, yeah, this is going to be probably very under the radar. And I did touch on this game, or not this game, the team, the Bengals last week, and they did do very well in terms of Higgins. He scored 15.8, and then Jamar Chase scored 23.9. I think I might go back to him here. The Bears defense looked horrible. And I think, Joe Burrow and the Bengals can have some success here. So the thing I usually like about the Bengals and Joe Burrow is they pass the ball a ton. But last week, they only passed the ball 27 times. I think it was more so because they were ahead, running the ball a ton. Joe Mixon had, I believe, like over 30 touches. And what I also like about the Bengals is they're always very underpriced. Like these prices do not make sense to me. Joe Burrow is 5,800. T. Higgins is 5,400. Jamar Chase is 5,000. And then, of course, great run back option in Allen Robinson, who's also very underpriced at 6,200. So, yeah, I like the Bengals in terms of a stack here. I think it should be very low owned. And I think they're going to get a lot of opportunities here against the defense. Last week, that looked like absolute crap.
I definitely will agree with you, Brady. I feel like the Cincinnati Bengals and Chicago Bears game will go overlooked for mini stacks. One guy that I'm really looking to run it back with Jamar Chase is Cole Kmet. Tight end position's a little bit shallow this week. Cheap tight ends. I really like Cole Kmet last week on that Sunday night football game against the Rams. He was used more than I thought he was going to. Jimmy Graham is finally dust. He might have caught one ball, but not enough for me to be scared. I love me some Cole Kmet with the run back of the Bengal wide receivers. One price tag that really stuck out to me was Jamar Chase at $5,500. Unfortunately, though, I don't think it's going to come at the subpar ownership that we had last week. But one under the radar stack that I was looking at for the 1 o'clock games is the San Francisco 49ers and Philadelphia Eagles game. I touched on how the tight end position is a little bit shallow this week. So I kind of like the guys like George Kittle on this team. If you're looking for some value, there's not a lot of value below 6K on this slate at the running back position. But if there is one to pick, I really like Elijah Mitchell, or as DraftKings and FanDuel like to say, Eli Mitchell, if you're searching him up. Also, kind of want to shy away from the wide receivers on that team. If I did have to play one, I would play Deebo Samuel. And then we called it last week, man. Hurts was going to be the guy that was going to go under the radar, and he's at the same exact price tag again with all the ownership going to Herbert and Dak. It seems like a really good Hurt spot and pretty clear stacking options in Devontae Smith and a very low-owned Jalen Reagor this week. Brady, what are your thoughts on this 49ers and Eagles game?
Yeah, I think you can definitely go back to the Eagles stack this week. The 49ers defense did not look great last week, and Hurts definitely did what he was supposed to do. 28.8 DraftKings points last week. That was awesome. And Devonta Smith, I was a little bit worried about Smith. But he came through 19.1 DraftKings points last week, caught a touchdown as well. So, yeah, I definitely will be looking to go back there. On the flip side, you mentioned Mitchell, which is a very interesting, topic throughout the week, is going to be the 49ers running backs. And I think Mitchell is going to be that guy as of now, going forward. Could it be Sermon, later on in the year? Yeah, it could be. But I think right now it's going to be Mitchell, and he is sitting at 5K. The 49ers running backs are somebody that I always like targeting. They always seem to have that upside. It seems like at least one of them always go off week in and week out, and then a really good matchup against the Eagles run defense there. So yeah, for me, I'm liking Mitchell for the 49ers. You touched on the wide receivers a little bit, which is very weird last week. The Ayuk situation where, 0 DraftKings points, that shocked me. And then Deebo Samuel goes out there and scores 35.9 DraftKings points. And then I forget what the coaches said about Ayuk. They said he's not ready or something, which is very interesting to me. But it looks like Deebo Samuel is going to be that guy. And yeah, he went off last week, and he is now sitting at 6,700, which it does seem like a lot. But if they're going to use him like they did last week, maybe he could be something to look at. But yeah, that's a big price tag.
No, I would definitely will agree with you. The price tag has definitely went up. But one stack that I was looking at, man, you said this shit to me on Wednesday, and boy, did I look inside the optimizer that evening, and I there wasn't a way I couldn't bump him down in my optimizer this week. I don't know why Tom Brady's popping so much for me this week, but Brady, you're the one that told me, look at him. Bump it up. I know he doesn't rush, but it's the year 2021. You just got to add him into the player pool. Would you like to talk about this Tampa Bay and Falcons game? I feel like that's the last game that's really on the slate that's really stackable.
Yeah, this is definitely stackable for sure. We saw how terrible the Falcons looked last week offensively and defensively. And Tom Brady, like I mentioned Wednesday, this guy's 44 and still getting it done, still looking phenomenal. He has 6,800, so he's right around the Dak and the Herbert price range. So I do think, curious to see what the ownership is between those three. But yeah, Tom Brady had 32.2 DraftKings points last week, had a great matchup last week against Dallas, but he has another great matchup against Atlanta Falcons, whose defense I do not rate all that highly at all. And then look at these stacking options. Mike Evans, who has 6,100, 5.4 DraftKings points last week. He definitely disappointed a lot of people, but he's still Mike Evans, and he's still way too cheap here. Antonio Brown, who looked phenomenal last week, 6,000. And then Chris Godwin, who also looked phenomenal, 6,600. So these three in general are all just way too cheap here. And then, of course, you have nice run back options. Calvin Ridley is somebody that I'm looking to get right back on. He did disappoint a lot of people, including me last week, but a great matchup here against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary. I do think he bounces back. And then Kyle Pitts, who I had in pretty much every lineup last week, definitely disappointed, had 7.1 DraftKings points, but he did have 8 targets. I think it's a great bounce back spot for Pitts as well. So I'm looking at, stacking it up with Brady, double stack. I don't think I'll triple stack it, but double stack it and then run it back with a Pitts or a Ridley.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Same sentiments for me. That's really the stacks that I'm looking at for the slate. The ones that we haven't really talked about too much was the Indianapolis Colts and the Los Angeles Rams. Don't really know what I want to do with the Colts. I got burnt by Pittman last week. I think I'll go back to the well, but maybe one that I'll just let it go over the radar. I really like Cooper Kupp this week. Anything else on the slate that you were looking at that you wanted to say or you forgot about?
Yeah, I'm surprised you're not going back to the Bills. What are your thoughts on a Bill stack this week against Miami?
I'm keeping it hush under the table, under the table. One of the big decisions I got to decide this week is who's going to be my cash game quarterback this week. The ownership's starting to really narrow in on a Friday. So earlier in the week, I had Josh Allen in my first build, but later on as the week goes, I feel like I can get away from it a little bit. I don't know, man. Something I might have to sleep on. I might run a negative Josh Allen in my cash games this week. But for GPPs, I do like that game as a mini stack. I like the Josh Allen to Stephon Diggs combo. I just don't think I could full onslaught stack it because I'm not really too high on the Dolphins. I know Will Fuller is missing this game, not because of the weed this time, just because of personal problems. But I guess Jalen Waddle maybe would be the guy that I would look to run it back with. Maybe Mike Gesicki because tight end's so dry this week. I don't know, man. Definitely a game that I think I like the Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs combo and Emmanuel Sanders who might pop out this week. But Brady, where are you looking at in that game?
Yeah, nothing for cash for me, but I'm definitely looking at going back to Buffalo this week. They had a very tough matchup against Pittsburgh, and it's a tough matchup here against Miami, but Josh Allen did look not like himself last week. I think it's a great opportunity for him to bounce back, and same thing with Diggs. And Diggs had, I think, like a crazy amount of targets. I want to say he had 13 targets for Stephon Diggs. So yeah, Diggs is definitely somebody you can always get in on. I'm going to be more higher on the other games. This is a game that I'm not too interested in, but I can definitely see myself having, a few Allen and Bill stacks there.
Well, before we head on out, this is the betting and prop content part of the video. So I had to make a special call to the Guapo man, as one would like to say, the Cali man himself, Mr. David Sharp.
Man, you calling me by my government name, bro. Jeez, my mom don't even call me David. What's good, Brady?
What's up?
Man, Friday, days the props come out, the days the anytime TD still ain't out because they know we going to smack them.
So, Sharpie, where are you starting off your props at this week? You're going to have to one-up Mills last week. Mills came on here, and he did his best locker room impression, and I will give Mills credit. He did cash the over 2.5 receptions by James Robinson that he gave out by the sponsor, MyBookie. Make sure you use promo code PulsePost Radio on your way to check out. 100% match deposit on Bitcoin and 50-cent match deposit on cash or debit. That's how you should do a promo. Maybe not cash, but maybe the debit. Sharpie, what are you looking at for props this week?
Let's go. I got 5 plays, bro, but I'll break them down quicker than a fucking motherfucker. So, excuse my language. Sorry. Here we go. Chris Carson, guys, over 88.5 rushing and reception yards at minus 115 on DK. And I'm looking towards the anytime touchdown with him. Last year, Tennessee was 19th allowed with 120 rush yards per game and 18 rush TDs, 22nd in the league. Guess what, guys? They gave up that 120 last week, too. They're the same Tennessee Titans. Chris Carson was on the share of the field the majority of the time, guys. 16 out of the 19 carries were to Chris Carson last week for 91 yards, and 4 out of the 19 pass attempts were to the running back position for Seattle. So, Chris Carson, this is a cash cow for me, guys. I'm taking him over 88.5 rushing reception yards.
I like it. Brady, is there a prop in particular that gets your beard tickling over there?
Yeah, I actually have 4 props and I'm looking at. The one favorite one I have is going to be Dak Prescott over 39.5 passing attempts at minus 105. I really don't get this line, and this is funny. I actually bet the same thing, Dak Prescott over 39.5 passing attempts in the Tampa Bay game, and I was like, this is so off. In the games that he was healthy last week, he averaged 50.5 passing attempts, and it was like late in the first half, and he was at like 38 passing attempts. This is a very high scoring game, 55-point game total, a game where they are underdogs, can't talk. But yeah, I think Dak Prescott over 39.5 passing attempts is probably my favorite play on the entire slate, and that's the only thing that I've officially bet so far.
That's what I like to hear from you. I know my boy Sharpie316, as the name says today, was on that one as well. Sharpie, what other props are you looking at? I know you got a list of them. Bang them out.
Man, I feel dumb for not saying what Brady just said. That was my play last week, and it's like, why not back to the well? Like, to add on to what Brady said, guys, out of every game that he played, last year, this year, in Kellen Moore's offense, he's hit that number except versus Washington. Okay, whoop-de-doo. You got to play the numbers, guys, and it's like an 80% clip. Yeah, let's go. But I'm on Zeke over 83.5 rushing and receiving yards. Once again, I like these rushing and receiving props, guys, because a lot of the times the guys on the field, Elliott, for one, 84% of the snap share last week. Okay, I know he had a bad game, but 84% of the snap share versus a team 18th ranked in the rush D and allowed 90 yards to Gibson last week on the ground. I see 83.5 doable with passing and receiving for Zeke over. Also, on the flip side, I'm on Pollard receiving over 13.5. I know I just said that Zeke was out there 84% of the time. Well, Pollard, that means was out there for a weak-ass 16%, guys. Weak as hell, right? But wait a second. He had 3 rushes, 4 receptions. They are calling plays for Pollard when he is on the field, bro. That's what it is. So I've got a 13.5 in a game where I think the Cowboys could and should be down. I see Pollard easily getting that extra garbage time. 13.5 receiving yards is too small for Pollard.
I like it, Sharpie. One game that I'm looking at, since we're just talking about bets in general, I'm going down to my hometown team, the Philadelphia Eagles, +3 on the spread. That is going to be one of my spread picks today. But Sharpie, I know there's a prop that you're looking at in that game. What is the prop?
Man, I got 2 props. Tell the wheels fall off, guys. Jalen Hurts over 50.5 rush yards, -115 on DraftKings. 4 out of 5 starts, 63, 69, 106, 62. He has the second most rush yards in the history of NFL behind Lamar Jackson, and he's priced in the 60s and 70s. Until they reprice Hurts, you got to keep playing him. Then Sanders. They haven't caught up to Sanders. Last week it was at 13.5 reception yards. They bumped it up 5. It's now at 18.5 minus 111 on BetMGM. Last week he was targeted 5 times for 39 yards on 4 catches. Swift had 8 catches for 65 yards with the Detroit Lions, guys. They like to throw to Sanders. This is way underpriced. I still don't understand why. So give me Sanders over 18.5 and Hurts over 50.5.
I like it. I like it. Brady, back to you. Is there any prop leans that you have this week? I know you said you only bet one on the board, but that doesn't mean you don't have a list of them ready to go just to place after you cash all your Saturday tickets.
Yeah, in terms of props, I'm really high on Nick Chubb this week. The Browns are 12.5-point favorites. They are at home. I expect them to just run the ball and run the ball a ton. So I guess the 3 that I was looking at in terms of Chubb, they have the over-under at 17.5 rushing attempts. I'm kind of leaning over there. 88.5 rushing yards. I'm leaning on the over there. And then anytime touchdown, minus 200, chalky, but I'm leaning there as well. I think Chubb is going to dominate this game. I think they're going to use him a lot and use that run game a lot. I just don't see why they wouldn't. And obviously a very, very good matchup this week as well. So I'm all over Chubb, and I'm going to be looking at a lot of these Chubb props this week.
I like it. I like it. I know one of these things that you can do on FanDuel is do the anytime touchdown score and the team to win. So maybe if you're looking to buy down Nicholas Chubb's anytime touchdown, I would say Nick Chubb and the Browns to win. Another one that I was looking at was Najee Harris anytime touchdown and the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat the Oakland Raiders. I feel like there's a lot of different ways that you can beat the books this week, because with the teasers and stuff like that, I feel like if you can identify the teams that have value underdog wise and you can tease it up 7 points and you can get plus 10, plus 11, I feel like it's saying you can bet on an MMA fighter and get like plus 5 punches after the fight's over or something like that. You know, if somebody would have told me that in women's MMA, I probably would bet women's MMA all the time. But, you know, life isn't like that. Life isn't that sweet. But it will be sweet after the Buffalo Bills beat the Miami Dolphins. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills -3 on the spread against the Miami Dolphins. I was saving this one a little bit. Brady asked about it earlier about the stacks. Nah, man, I think I'm going to have the real big boy bucks invested in this one and bet the Bills -3 on the spread. Stayed off last week because Sharpie was so confident on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But we're in week 2, and we don't overreact in week 2 here. That's why it's the Stacks and Facts video. And the fact is the Buffalo Bills are going to smack the Miami Dolphins. So take a -3 at -112. I am getting that at, I can't believe I'm saying this, and I can't believe I even signed up for the sports book, but I bet that at Barstool Sportsbook.
Ooh.
Sharpie, any other props you're looking at for this weekend?
I just did a quick little breakdown onto the few games I wanted to look at. You could probably catch me on Jimmy's show on Sunday. I'll give out a few more. I got the baseball show to do tomorrow, so it'll be a busy weekend with pub sports. Just know, guys, Sharpie 316. It's a lifestyle, not a hobby. We don't smoke the same. We don't bet the same. And we definitely don't fuck the same, guys. Hashtag 350, homie. If it ain't 350, no need to see the titty.
I love it. I love it. Brady, anything for you on the outro here?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The other thing I was looking at is Christian McCaffrey over 5.5 receptions, -143. He got 9 receptions last week. They're just going to feed him the ball, whether it's rushing or receptions. And then also, this stuck out to me that the Chiefs outright only -210 against the Ravens. Lamar Jackson still, not looking like himself. I think he just doesn't look great to me. And I think the Chiefs are just going to run through the Ravens this week. So yeah, give me the Chiefs outright -210.
I don't mind that either, Brady. I think I want to tease up the Chiefs. What are you going to say, though, Sharpie? My bad.
I was going to say, Brady, the game was at -140 before the Ravens played the Raiders, just to give you a heads up. It was at a minus. We were betting that in the Pub Sports Radio Discord at -140. Nice. And McCaffrey's rush yards was at 71 last week. That was stupid low. I don't know what that's at yet. I haven't checked it out, but you brought up McCaffrey, and it made my mind run. And like, yeah, they got to price him back up to where he should be.
Yeah, no, I definitely will agree with you on that one, Sharpie. But if you are looking for maybe some daily fantasy content, it's a Saturday, and you don't know what the ownership is looking like because there's so many late replacements. Brady, where should they go if they're looking to get it in right before the slate starts tomorrow at 4 p.m.?
Yeah, so I have a lot of stuff going on tomorrow. Obviously, I have a live stream 1 hour prior to when the prelims start. It's called Best Bet, where me and a group of guys go through the best bet for each and every fight. That's a great show to look at. I'm actually going live in about 25 minutes on my channel. Going to be talking everything. Going to be talking betting. Going to be talking DraftKings, and just giving my final thoughts throughout the slate. So yeah, looking forward to getting back into the role of things for UFC, and also looking forward to NFL as well. It's going to be a very, very busy weekend.
Make sure you follow DFS by the numbers, one of the hardest working men in the industry, giving you MMA, NFL, and man, I wouldn't even be surprised if you seen a fucking NASCAR slate come from Brady. If you sign up for his Patreon, make sure you look it up. DFS by the numbers. Sharpie, where can they find you at?
Y'all can find me at Sharpie's Bets on Twitter or Mr. Green Moon on Instagram. Or at your local pub, or SeaWorld dropping off 2 whales on a Friday or Saturday night.
I love it. You can follow me over on Twitter at Getting Bills right here below. I'm going to be putting out some Bellator and some MMA best bets for the weekend, stuff that I personally put my money on. You win all the monies in the world, and all the monies play tonight for you degenerates that have made it this far into the video. It's a flexing day, and we're going to flex Mariners first 5, and we're going to take it -120 on flexing day. If you like this type of content, make sure you hit the like button on the video and the bell notification so you get notified for all of our live videos all 7 days of the week. And make sure you stay tuned at 9 o'clock. I think it's 8 o'clock Eastern for the No Clean Sheets show, which is the soccer show for Pub Sports Radio, covering the real football, as I guess the non-Americans call it. But we are giving you American football here. So make sure you hit that like button and the bell notification. We will see you next Wednesday. We out.